One of the things that we've talked about a lot in the group is about our impact or our perceived impact on our family, and whether actually what we think we've impacted or how we think we've impacted is actually the way that other people perceive it. Now, I wanted to talk to Chris because he's my brother. He's actually my little brother, even though he looks older than me. And
that used to be a compliment.
Yeah, it did, but it's not anymore, is it? But also I wanted to talk to Chris because Chris was absolutely, from my point of view, was pivotal last year when my crisis hit, both in terms of feeding me and looking after me, but also getting my head straight and allowing me to move on. So I'll probably start with kind of your perceptions of me as a teacher before all of this happened. The time that I spent with you, was I present? That, I think I want to come at it from that point of view, and I want you to be honest.
Okay, so there's probably a few phases to that answer.
Yeah.
I think there was a combination of when you got married and timeline wise, you'd finished your teacher training at that point and had just started teaching, hadn't you? And you stopped being cool for a bit. And you know, that's probably part of growing up, that you start doing different things. But it was kind of like you'd thrown away a little bit of your identity that sort of didn't need to be thrown away. Posters down. Yeah, I realise you've got to dress differently when you're at school, but like you can also still keep a little bit of you. And then again, kind of timeline wise, you shift on a couple of years, and you obviously get divorced. You split from Ken, and you get cooler again. But you kind of, anytime I'm seeing you, it's quite it's really apparent that like you're not always totally there. You've been clobbered by various acronyms, like you've got Ofsted coming at you, and you're not really into the joy of teaching as much. And I also see kind of around that time that it's taken a physical toll on you as well. That's visible. And to some extent, like that, I think is probably a thing that, like most people, get with a career in some part. But there gets to this point, I think. Like people get made redundant, people do career changes and things like that. People get really stressed out in life and lose marriages due to careers and things. But what that seemed to lead to in other people I'd observed is like a change, doing something different. And what I saw to an extent with you was that there was. You've got a pension, you've got this like mapped out career line, and you're not enjoying it as much anymore, and you can see what's wrong, but you still just keep kind of throwing yourself at it because there's this like timeline that you're supposed to do and go, and some of that you did say I probably wouldn't shut up once I started, didn't you? Some of that I think is also about investment in the kids and what you do. So I don't know, like in terms of what I saw of you as a teacher, I saw someone who was, like, to start with, incredibly into it in a way where they actually changed their whole kind of lifestyle and the way they appeared and what they did to a certain extent, and then actually, like, what was motivating you to carry on doing it just kind of declined over time.
It's interesting that you there's a couple of things that you pick out there. So the whole thing about the pension, massive driver in it, and it is one of the things that seems to be trapping people into the profession. which is one of the things why we've got a pension advisor coming in, because there is that. It's like, I've paid into my pension for 20 years, 24 years, however long. What happens if? And I think the thing about cool, not cool, cool again. I really feel that. So I've been working with a coach for the last 3-4 months, and I probably envisage working with her for a lot longer, actually. And she's really got to the heart of the fact that me, the real me, has been kind of, yes, exactly that. And in terms of my creativity and my personality, and that joy of wanting to just do things and be in the moment, had been completely squashed. So I
mean, you can flip it around. You can look at someone like me and say, maybe there's a severe case of arrested development going on here. He's still wearing practically the same kind of clothes and looking the same as he did like when he was 15, 16. But like, there's a lot more to it than that. Obviously, you know, I've kind of moved on and developed with how I am with the kids and some of the things I've done. But I think it's nice to, like, if not throw away, not bow to this whole kind of like, oh, you have to look a certain way because you're 30 or 40 or whatever. Like, it's real kind of low level like
conformity, isn't it? Yeah. That's why I'm having pink and purple highlights put in my hair on Wednesday, because I can now. And it's that, those sorts of restrictions for me that I'd not even realised until I started making my list when I came out, about, you know, what sort of shoes we were allowed to wear, and how we were expected to dress, and not having extreme hairstyles and nail. But you know, some of the restrictions were actually more restrictive for the adults than they were for the kids in some respects. And slowly that erodes at who you are, and it's very difficult to switch that on and off. So I know obviously since well, I mean, we were up and down to you a lot anyway, but since the kids have come along, every school holiday pretty much, I mean, this is the longest period of time that I've not seen you. 4 months. It's 4 months. It's February. In fact, it's nearly 5 months then. But obviously, since the kids came along, I've made a conscious decision that every school holiday I will come spend time with you all. And even switching off the school bit whilst I've been there, it was always just there. And I just wonder whether it's noticeable now. I mean, I realised we only had like 8 months.
I forgot what your company is like.
Yeah, but after that changed last year, when I started, I mean, I was down. I felt like I lived with you guys for a bit. Even though I was struggling, was there a difference in my engagement?
So that's a good segue to talk probably about try and wrap up like the last 18 months from my perspective, maybe.
Yeah.
The last 24. Have you been different in to start with? It wasn't like you got to. Right, I'm going to have to timeline this. So, so there's a bit where you haven't left, and I'm talking to you, and it's evident that what is going on is more than just normal pissing about that you'd. Apologies there.
No, it's fine.
Messing around that you'd get from a kind of highly bureaucratic, top-down kind of machine, and it's starting to become more like the stuff that you see in business, and I'm guessing that's some of the academization.
Yeah.
But there seems to be a little bit more of the kind of HR practices that I'd associate with. I've seen a lot of people made redundant by HR in places where I've worked, and it was just feeling it was a little bit probably a lot, yeah. That you're caught in a tactic to move you on somewhere. But you were preoccupied by that, and I think going back to the pension thing, you've got this kind of mindset that this is what you're working towards, and that like that's going to be taken away from you. You've kind of been institutionalized to an extent, like as someone who quite likes photography a bit. It's always been pretty galling that you had no kind of classical training other than what you picked up from Dad, and you were far better than me. And it's kind of like I look at you and I see you worried about what the future is, and in my mind, for the past 10 years, you should have been doing something else anyway. But going out alone and doing your own thing is kind of quite a difficult leap to make, especially if you've been operating with that kind of security blanket of you've got a guaranteed. I know it's fun to bang on about teachers and your pensions, but you've got something that is actually worth something in the future to you there. And then you've got it was kind of, you were worried, you felt better when you made the decision, but you were still worried for a few months about whether it was the right thing. How is this all going to pan out? And then I think probably it was probably kind of late summer last year, maybe kind of running into Christmas. Actually, it was like, oh yeah, I can see what I can do. I can see that like all this stuff that I've been doing in school beyond the teaching has given me actually a pretty good IT skill set. That obviously not losing your rag with a bunch of kids on a day-to-day basis has probably given you some decent skills in being able to interact with people and communicate with people. And you just started taking off, really. It's been mildly annoying that a global pandemic has got in the way of catching up with you properly over the last couple of months. I think you probably appreciate your time with the boys a bit more.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you guys.
Yeah. So yeah, I think like if I'm trying to sum up the last 18 months in a nutshell, and also I'm looking at myself and I'm seeing all the familiar kind of tics that come out when you train and talking and doing videos. But yeah, it's just been nice to see you coming back, and it started with this, like, not that you were bad or terrible or anything, but actually it's just a bit more seeing like still some of the kid or some of the younger you kind of
that inner child silliness.
You're looking better as well. You actually look healthier and happier. So despite all the crazy that's going on, I think if you were teaching at the moment, you'd have a different set of problems. There'd be problems.
Big problems.
But you wouldn't have dealt with the last 3 months in the same way.
No, very much so. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, I've not earned anything as such over lockdown, and I fell through all of the gaps in terms of government support. But actually, my attitude was sod it, what will be, will be. The joy of Corin is that he's just gone, well, you know, this is quid pro quo. You did this for me a few years ago when I was struggling with work, so it's my turn. And also we've started having some interesting conversations about mortgage, because we've got quite a chunk of equity in the house, because for a long time we overpaid and offsetted and stuff. So we're actually at a point where we're thinking about remortgaging to release a bit of equity just to keep me, just to give me a buffer for 12 months so that money isn't the thing that's at the back of my mind.
Yeah.
So that we can focus. But I wouldn't have even thought about that 3 months ago. And because my attitude to money's changed, because there's a little bit of me now is thinking, well, hang on a minute, that's our money that's tied up in the house now. And there's life assurance attached to the house. If I kiff it, the house gets paid off anyway. And if Corin kiffs it, it gets paid off anyway, because that's a requirement on a mortgage. So why have I been for the last 20 odd years been so desperate to pay off the mortgage and tie up all that money in the house when actually, and I think that mindset shift has only happened in the last 12 months. It's like, a minute, why don't I spend my money on me?
It's been a little less risk averse as well, maybe.
Yeah, it's so interesting, some of the things that you're saying that I've been saying in the group, that up until last year I was fundamentally so risk averse that I would not. I mean, I talked to you, and I talked to Lisa, who's in France with a photography business, and she credits me with being the one who made her set up her photography business, and she's like world renowned now and internationally recognized and raking it in. And she has said to me, and you said to me 10 years ago, why don't you? And it was too comfortable at that point, I think.
Ah, well.
Yeah. Happy days.
Milk's been spilled.